I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record.
My community knows who I am. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect.
Hi, I'm Andy.
And I'm Roger.
And welcome to The Middle,
where we try to have thoughtful conversations
about awkward topics
on our search to find the middle.
We're going to give you last week's news today.
It's a slogan we should put on a t-shirt.
Stop touching her!
I am tonight announcing my candidacy.
Taylor Swift. Look, my biggest issue with marriage is that I think that it's a fundamentally flawed institution that is built on the oppression of women.
I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny.
Having truly rational conversations about controversial issues is risky these days.
Roger, how you going?
Yeah, not too bad. We are joining The Middle for a midweek special once again. The election cycle has us working overtime.
We enjoy these debates, but this one wasn't quite as entertaining as the last one, I think it's fair to say.
It was funny actually, because it was, when I step back and think about the debate, it was the most normal with it was the most normal and professional, right? And as a result, I found myself drifting off quite a lot. I think I was messaging you for the first opening 10 minutes, and then I was getting more distracted by your texts rather than actually listening to the debate. So I did find it a little bit hard, and then I reflected on myself, gee, our bandwidth for paying attention to these things has really changed, and to the point where a professionally run debate now was kind of boring.
Do you think we're just sort of we have such high expectations in terms of drama that just listening to two politicians try and speak about policy is just can't do it anymore?
I think it's almost like competence, right? Like the smooth polish of a production like that, and the trust that they're going to say something. It's like the trust that they're answering in a way that you find appropriate. So it's not surprising to you. So there's no shock value. There's no kind of like, you're not nervous. You're not paying attention for the entertainment, right? And I think that is probably an indictment on the state of our mental awareness nowadays, right? We're so used to the grabbing, your attention grabbing moments are scattered in like fucking, candy in every interaction in society right now, whether it be shorts, reels, even, podcasting and things like that, all these shortcuts and stuff. So when you see it now, like an old school debate, it doesn't land the same.
All right. Should we cut to the chase in terms of who we think won it, or should we keep that for the end?
Yeah, let's do it differently. Let's put it at the end this time, right? Because I think as we go through it, it'll actually, no, I can't. There's no point. There is no point.
We'll know who we think will win it after the end of this episode anyway. So yeah, let's get to it. So who won?
Well, look, they say no one really wins a debate, and debates don't really change anything in terms of the outcome, the voting outcome, and I do believe that's true. But baby, I'll call it. JD Vance, A Star Is Born, right? Like, yes, a debate might not change anything, but what it has done for JD Vance is launched him. Like, his star is born. And I feel like this will give him so much credibility for his future political endeavors, which may have been the whole point of this anyway. Whole point for any politician is to further their own brand. And I feel like, I think I used this line to you, and I might as well just like let it out of the bag now. But I feel like watching JD Vance debate Waltz was like watching ChatGPT 4.0 have a conversation with the first version of Amazon's Alexa. That's how it felt to me. It was just domination, just two different machines running different hardware.
So I think I agree. JD Vance won the debate. I don't think it's quite as stark as you make it out to sound. I think Tim Waltz started terribly, and I think JD Vance started really well. And I think that when you're watching it in a chronological fashion, as we did, that counts for something, right? So it's like, you start well, and that pretty much shapes everything you watch thereafter. But I do think towards, like, if you just watch sort of the highlights reel, apart from, kind of that first sort of 5 minutes, I think you might sort of come away thinking that they're more evenly matched. But I think where JD Vance sort of won it, and maybe where Tim Waltz sort of lost it, is that, they each have a slightly different measure of success. And I think for JD Vance, the measure of success is to temper the notion of craziness that surrounds the Donald Trump campaign, and by extension him, right? So he's often associated as like he's actually the crazy guy. Trump is like the normal guy. But I think during this debate, JD Vance came across looking like a credible policy figure. He came across, look, most of what he was saying was bullshit, but like in terms of optics, it came out sounding like this guy's like a steady pair of hands. He kind of actually is he's smarter than me. Like, I trust him. Like, he gave that impression. I think Tim Waltz, where he sort of didn't, I don't know what his objective would have been or what a measure of success for him would have been, but it might have been to like go a little bit on the attack against kind of the craziness of Trump. It would have been maybe to appeal to some of the Trump voters who maybe like to actually reclaim some of the like the Republican legacy, reclaim people who would have voted for Reagan and Bush, right? Appeal to that cohort, maybe be, not the elder statesman in the sense that you're the solid old guy, but like contrast, like be the almost in that debate, be the Republican candidate, the traditional Republican candidate, and win some of that middle voter, the swinging voters out. And I don't think he did that. I think he just sort of doubled down on all of Kamala's talking points, and I don't think that served him.
Yeah, look, I think I take your point about maybe the clips, but I think it was clear to see from me that you were dealing with two very different beasts, right? And I think that the polish, like how JD Vance was polished and articulate, and he was just so good on his feet, right? Like, I think that I felt so vindicated because you and I have been talking about him for a while before the media really turned inwards on him. And yeah, I mean, aided by some of his commentary. But it's like, fuck, I knew it. And he proved it right. He is everything I thought he was in terms of how clever he is, how good on his feet he is, his ability to thread the needle on tricky issues. And I just do think that like this charge of Tim Waltz behind a microphone calling him weird and saying that he fucks a couch and all this bullshit, the best cure for that is like the sunlight, right? And just showing how he can handle himself, right? And I think that it was very strategic in the way that he didn't come across like a mad dog. He didn't try to bludgeon Tim Waltz. In fact, it was a very restrained kind of a very polite and very measured approach. Even the attacks were quite soft and quite classy. So I think that he was very much dispelling the whole weird vibe, and I think he handled things in a very, very good manner. Now, Tim Waltz, I think, a lot of the things that make him endearing, the whole football coach teacher, the centre left, the appealing to the more masculine values, was somewhat neutralized because of the context. Seeing him, in the suit on the stage, he just looked very confused and worried. The split screens weren't good for him. He looked, he couldn't use those strengths, and he had quite a few gaffes. So he mixed up a lot of words. Israel and Iran right off the bat wasn't great.
There was a lot of like nervous energy.
Yeah, he looked uncomfortable. And look, this is coming from a candidate who said that I'm actually not that good at debating. He's actually on the record saying that. And look, I'd be bloody nervous too if I was up against JD Vance. The guy is good on his feet, right? He's a good speaker. He's a good lawyer, right? And I think that it's a big challenge, a tall order. I mean, can you just imagine for 1 second if Biden didn't like literally have a 404 file not found error on the last debate, JD Vance would be having a debate with Kamala Harris right now. Can you imagine that bloodbath? Right? Like, I just think that he's a tough person to debate. You know, he's like I just think he's got it. But look, Waltz had a lot of gaffes and a few things, you know, like the moderators went a little bit harder on him than they did with Kamala, I think. Things like the calling him on the Tiananmen Square stuff as well, and that came off pretty bad. And yeah, he kind of mixed a few things up, minced a few words, friends with school shooters and things like that, you know, that were just heat of the moment kind of nerves that didn't land so well. But I do think that he did have a moment towards the end. I feel like he really landed a few points, a few kind of jabs and hooks, especially around the transition of power. I think that was a good close for him. He kind of cornered JD Vance on not being able to admit that Trump lost the election. And I think that was a good, you know, that was a good kind of tag that he put on Vance.
I don't think that Tim Waltz necessarily, you know, had the kind of the word salad, as they say, or the, you know, that many like screw ups in terms of misspeaking or whatever, or had the real gotcha moments. I think it was
Iran and Israel thing. You don't count that as a pretty big.
Well, I mean, most of America don't even know the difference between Iran and Israel. So, but well, I don't know. It might be. I think it was more things like the pauses. You know, like he took a lot of pauses mid-sentence to gather his thoughts, and he didn't exude sort of confidence. Right. That for me was the biggest impediment to him. But I think, you know, we had a bit of an exchange about JD Vance, and I think, you know, I think I texted you that, JD Vance is kind of like, it's kind of winning this already in the first minute. And I think we were kind of trying to place JD Vance in the, you know, the spectrum or the hall of like, you know, US politicians. And I really don't want to kind of, you know, oversell how good JD Vance actually was, because I think he fulfilled the role of like a competent politician, but he ain't no Obama, he ain't no Clinton, he ain't no Reagan. And I was thinking about, is he like in the league of Bush? And I think, no, he's not even in the league of Bush. Like, I think he probably is more polished than Bush, but the missing factor with JD Vance, and the irony is that he has this in spades when he narrates his book Hillbilly Elegy, but he's totally lost it as a politician, is likability. He is not a likable person. He comes across looking like this hybrid of like, I don't know, like maybe it is his age, maybe it is he doesn't have that kind of elder statesman kind of feel about him, but it's like, you know, when you meet like a really eloquent private schoolboy who's a member of the Young Liberals and they speak really well and eloquently, but they're fucking dickheads and you can't stand them, right? That's the kind of the vibe I get from him. But the irony is like he's not that, because his whole background is.
I don't know why he's left that opinion on you. I think that he can. I mean, okay, if you throw the likability in there, that likability clause, but he can run circles around Bush in terms of how quick he is on his feet and how he the control of his language and stuff.
Yeah, but it's endearing. No, it's like the mishaps are endearing. Like and there's no character to his voice. It's just like
and
a politician giving
school.
you. It is it is GPC4. You know what I mean? Like it is ChatGPT4. Yeah. Like,
but that's the polish, right? And there's a time and place for everything, right? He's trying to kind of ward off the crazy. And you got to remember that this guy's like only a year older than us. Talk about room to grow. Like, that's what I mean. I just
yeah, but it's 2024 election, right?
He's not going after the 2024 election. He's going to be a mainstay in conservative politics for many, many years, right? So I just think that, look, I think he's the real deal. And yeah, he's got some room to grow and things like that. But you got to, I mean, what a refreshing change to see someone who, we were talking about, you know, Gavin Newsom having the same kind of vibe, right? Being able to be good on the stump, you know, turn a good phrase, have the right EQ to kind of know when to push and when to back off. Like, I just think that it's a real skill. And even the way that he he broke the fourth wall and called the moderators on the fact checking. Like, I think even the way he handled that was really classy, but showed assertiveness as well. So I just think that, I take your point about the likability, but I think a lot of that has been bent by the media, right? Like, if you never heard JD Vance speak before, you would have come into this debate expecting to see some feral, couch fucking far right, like lunatic. And that's the way he's been painted. And he is not that, right? And I think that this is the thing. The more that you hear this man talk, the less you will be, bent by the narrative that's been presented about him.
I think, though, that maybe where I disagree is that it's a little bit like wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing, where this guy is obviously smart. He's obviously accomplished in the things that he's done in his life so far, but this this guy's not someone who has a lot of integrity, in the sense that literally, 2016, he was mouthing off against Trump as hard as anyone else, right? And suddenly now, with the benefit of an opportunity put in front of him, like 180 Degrees loves Trump now and is like all about the Trump, policy agenda. Like, it's a little bit disingenuous, and I think some people will pick that up. But look, I don't want to get too in the weeds on him. Like, and I've said before, like when we talked about him as the pick, like I really did enjoy and felt quite a lot of, I have a lot of positive feeling towards the book Hillbilly Elegy and his achievement in putting that out there. But the JD Vance of this debate and of this campaign and of, pretty much the last however many years he's been in politics is not the same JD Vance. This is a different JD Vance, and I'm not that big a fan of this JD Vance. Like, that's me. I don't think he's got the, like you think back to like Ronald Reagan. Like, Ronald Reagan was a figure who was able to like thread that needle of being not just having the policy positions and saying the things that, you want that person to say in that setting, but like that could do it and feel like, oh, this guy is like, he's wise. He's got this like aura about him. And I think you can say the same thing about Obama, about Clinton.
I don't believe you can. I don't worship at the altar of Obama by any means. And anyone who's read his biography should be able to tell you that.
I'll tell you right now, if we're putting like a league of like politicians in terms of skill and class, you have Clinton, Obama, Reagan, maybe Bush a little bit of a peg below, and then JD Vance isn't in the same ballpark. He's not playing in the same league. Just to be clear about that.
Man, you're trying to
come on. Like, what are you kidding me?
Why,
are you seriously trying to say that he's this motherfucking like,
Andy,
whimsical guy who just latches on whatever like latest?
Why are you trying to put
JD
Vance
to get to the next level
on that table anyway? Right, like he is a VP pick. He's 40. He's served as a senator for hardly any time.
I know, but
no,
you're saying like he's saying,
I'm trying
you
to
can eat at that
pay his
table.
dues from a good performance that we haven't seen about through any of the other main players in this election cycle. Right now, if you're trying to say, and that list you had, those are deeply flawed people, right? Bill Clinton especially. I will not tolerate any of that shit. I just watched the Epstein Island. Well, you kind of have it both ways. Before all of this, we were talking about their ability to orate in a kind of like a debating skills situation. And now but now you're throwing in like likability and all this other kind of stuff like that. Like,
no, likability is connected with the way you speak, right? If you speak really well in some objective way, but you come across looking like some Eton educated,
he was humble.
Like
he was
that
humble
doesn't count
and not
for much,
condescending
right?
in this piece.
Not in the same way as those other politicians, right? Look, I don't want to get too deep in this thread, but like I would definitely say that among the four sort of VP / presidential candidates that we've got, so VPs and the prime pick, that he is the more kind of the better retail politician, perhaps. But I just want to be clear that like And I think we should be clear within ourselves that, like, just because we would say that, like, the competition's not that strong, right? And when you then go to like a more normal state of the universe where you've got folk like, I mean, think about like, you know, you've got Al Gore and George Bush and Reagan and, you know, that generation, right? It is much more convincing than like we're just actually what we're talking about here is like a reversion to like what a normal politician should sound like, and he's maybe a little bit closer to that. But I guess the thing that for me is a little bit missing is that, like, I'm not sure that he warms my heart, you know what I mean? And I'm not sure he'll warm the heart of America, right? But he is like he won the debate, so I'm not suggesting otherwise. But I think we have to be a little bit like tempered with our praise for JD Vance.
Yeah, look, I'm not I'm not trying to compare him to Obama and all these other people, right? Or even Reagan. I'm just trying to say that he performed really, really well. And in terms of likability, I guarantee his stocks have increased from this debate, not decreased.
Well, that's because he's not saying that, like, you know, people in Springfield are eating cats and dogs and other outlandish things, right?
The rules don't even apply to Trump in that way. But JD Vance is not Trump. He's not even a mini Trump.
Well, but they were JD Vance lines, right?
Well, time will tell. But I do think that in a race this close, it may have more of an impact than we think. But we'll see.
Well, can I throw in? I did have a look at the betting odds. So I think we both agreed we wouldn't look at any of the post debate coverage, but I did have a sneak peek at the betting odds and how they've changed post VP debate. And I think prior to the debate, Kamala Harris was in front $1.83 compared to, I don't know what Trump was, but maybe $2 or something like that. So, yeah, Kamala Harris was ahead. I had a look post VP debate, and interestingly, they're now both even at $1.91. So he's definitely in the aftermath of like the few hours after the debate clawed back a little bit of ground. Oh, actually, I mean, maybe not an insignificant amount of ground now that they're even. However, I think it remains to be seen how many people are actually paying attention, or, you know, like we said we were bored shitless. And yeah, I think if you sat through that whole thing and then genuinely formed a view of who you're going to vote for off the back of that, you're probably already pretty clear who you're going to vote for.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting piece. Like, I do think that it's not many people are going to listen to the debate, which leads you to the next part around what are the clips going to be? What are they? What are we going to get from in terms of viral moments and things like that? And I do think that out of all those things, the JD Vance fighting back on the fact checking will be a viral moment in the days to come.
It depends which media, though. I mean, like, I don't think that's going to land for mainstream media. I think on the Matt Walsh show it will, but
I think it'll be picked up personally. And we have seen a little bit of a change in the media coverage where even maybe for credibility's sake, even more the left aligned kind of channels and sources are starting to be a little bit more critical of the Harris party. So we'll see. But I do think it's just a really good thing for his brand. And what it does as well is just, like I said, you know, coming into this, if you didn't know a thing about JD Vance, he's been painted as like this monster. And if you listen to him and coming out after it, you'll realize that actually you'll start to understand the manipulation at play. And I think that is a good thing for the Trump campaign as well.
See, I don't know, like you say manipulation. I think, you know, this guy's put out some pretty egregious kind of statements, right? And I think implying that there's some kind of manipulation because, like, he actually says something in black and white and people report that he said something in black and white, that somehow that's manipulation. But not to dwell on that, but like, I think just going back to like the media, like how it's going to get picked up. I think I think, even though I believe truly that if you watch that debate, the winner in terms of against their metrics of success, the winner was JD Vance. I would not be surprised if that somehow neutralizes or normalizes maybe a little bit back towards Tim Waltz, because some of the most interesting parts of the debate and some of the tactical blows, I think, were actually made by Waltz against JD Vance. So, a few of them were. One was the one around the election, so him not being able to answer that. The other was some of the stuff on abortion, and there was other stuff on there was a few good bits around the border. I thought that was actually a good exchange, because they probably, you could make a claim that they both sort of had effective lines, in that exchange. But I think Tim Waltz actually did have a good response to, kind of talk through, he actually engaged in the flaw of some of the Trump policy in this space. So, where he's saying how, that there's that's what our bill wants to do. It wants to give the police, the law enforcement authorities more power to actually do their job, because JD Vance's line was, "Oh, well, we need to give them the authority and the power to do their job." It's well, that's what our bloody bill wants to do, and you won't pass it.
No, I don't think that.
So just some stuff around that. I think it landed. Yeah, I think it had a bit of passion, and I think
there were too many other big blows in that section from Vance.
But the border issue is one that naturally doesn't advantage Tim Waltz and the Democrats. So but then the line that hey, your guy is opportunistic about this, and and he fought back, and I think he at least if you're arguing the intellectuals of policy, I think he won that exchange, right?
No way, not that segment.
Yeah, I think so. I would give that to Waltz. Where the optic,
are going to be things like JD Vance saying, "I have been to the border more than the borders are," which is true.
Kind of segment the media, right? So there's definitely going to be a cohort of the Trumpian aligned media who is absolutely going to pick up all of that, right? But I think if it's if we're talking the mainstream press and the mainstream media, I think they probably that's not they're not looking for the, oh yeah, JD owned that guy, they're not motivated to find those moments, right? They're motivated to find the more serious moments of the actual, debate, and the mainstream press, on average, is not supporting Trump, so they're not going to be looking for those things.
Say that again.
For the hell
Say that line again.
If any, the mainstream press is not aligned to be rooting for Trump. Yeah, well, and why? And so they fucking shouldn't be, right? Because anyone with half a fucking brain wouldn't be rooting for Trump. Let's be clear on that.
I just think that there's too many things in there, the catchphrases from Vance and tech lines, and especially what people remember. I'll go back to him calling the moderators and fact checking this idea about Haitian immigrants, the 30,000 plus, and they're making this idea of them being legal, and saying, hey, this is not your traditional green card situation here. And I think that those are the things that will be remembered for immigration.
I don't know if that worked for him. That for me, I read that as this is a fucking little whingy fucking,
people,
this little kid who knows everything,
on, man,
trying to call. Nah.
It's I'll give you a really good example, right? Gavin Newsom put on Twitter, JD Vance just told us, look at the record for Trump's economy. Okay, Donald Trump lost 2.7 million jobs. President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have created over 15 million jobs. That's the record. It's this kind of blatant kind of manipulation of the facts and their inferred meanings that why people have no trust. It's all spin, when you take out COVID, it's literally 6.5 million net difference to Trump's administration that it is to the Harris and Biden. People are sick of this kind of
If you're saying people are sick of spin, who's the biggest spinster of them all? It's the Trump campaign. If you're plain speaking about the real world, if you want to see clearly as devoid of spin as possible. This isn't like like this charge that like, oh, it's see how, actually that's not fair on, the Trump like, come on, what are you trying to say, man? Like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
JD Vance calling them on this legal Haitian immigrants is like one of those
Yeah,
moments.
do you know who likes it? They love this shit. They lap this shit up because they're trolls at heart. There should be a side of politics that's for small government, that's for free markets, that's for less intervention in the economy. And traditionally, that's been the Republican Party. And tonight, what we saw, and in fact, it's not just tonight; it's the whole of the Trump agenda and his whole worldview. Right? We've seen the Republican Party completely vacate that space. And what does that do for the Democrats? It gives them, okay, well, if you're going to do that thing, if you're going to do that silly thing over there, then we can do this other silly thing over there. Whereas really what should be happening is you should have a strong Republican candidate who's not Donald Trump, arguing like, who's intellectually savvy, who's competent, who's capable, holding the Democrats to account. We don't have that right now. Instead, we got these two motherfuckers. So, and it's only marginally better than the alternative, which would have been Donald Trump versus Joe Biden.
Well, maybe not marginally better than the odds. Let's make that clear. The betting odds.
True.
Look, I do have faith in the democratic machine, and I do have faith in the system spitting these two people out. You know what I mean? Like
spitting them out as in, yeah, but like they should both be spat out, and
one will just be chewed up a bit.
But
more
we're going to
first.
get one of them. That's the problem.
We already have. We already have one.
We're guaranteed to get one of them.
Ready.
They both should be in the bin.
She is already the president.
Okay, I'm going to say two lines that are really wearing thin and driving me nuts. The first is like, whenever the border stuff comes up, the Kamala Harris line is, oh, well, there's only one person who's been prosecuting, whatever the people smugglers, and that's Kamala Harris. Like, that line doesn't work. That's wearing thin. It makes her sound like a very narrow, like conceived kind of individual, like that. And the amount of times I've heard that, they've got to jettison it. Okay, it's got to go.
Wow.
But the second one that really annoys me, and maybe because it's effective, but it's effective in an outsized way, and you just echoed it, is this notion that because she was vice president, that like everything that's gone wrong in the last 4 years is her fault, like, and therefore that if you don't like the way things are now, that you shouldn't, actually like vote for her, as opposed to contemplating like not so much the last 4 years, but rather who is going to make you better, like who's got the solutions and the actual answers to the problems. And then, oh no, but if she's got the solutions, why doesn't she do it now? No, she's not the fucking president now. And number one, like, and not only that, but like a lot of things that people are not happy with right now, I'd say most of them actually you can draw like, to the extent that like the US federal government has like influence on those issues, you could probably draw as many kind of, antecedents back to the Trump like years as you like. It's probably more likely if you really want to like understand like the root cause of like the current problems.
Let's do an exercise, Andy.
You could go back to
let's do an exercise.
Trump years and hang on. But not only that, but like there's most of the factors are like not in anyone's like sphere of influence, right? So it's just this thing that like, and it's an effective line.
It's very effective, very, very effective.
And I think this is where you sometimes get confused about my view of the world, right? I think you think that because I push back against Trump that somehow I don't understand his support or something. I absolutely understand. Like, I understand like how he's like hoodwinked people, right? Like that there's a difference between like not understanding why he's popular versus actually being able to call him out for what he is, right? And I think you think that because I called him out for what he is, that I don't understand
Andy,
Trump's support.
You've been listening to too much Sam Harris.
Right?
I'm not confused about anything. You're mistaking my disagreement for confusion because you don't want to believe it. Like, I think that Yeah, that's what's going on here.
Well, if someone's been listening to a little bit too much, you know, I don't know who's the acolytes that support Trump
Shapiro?
these days. Well, Shapiro has in the past said negative stuff about Trump, so I don't know. Is he on the Trump bandwagon?
Well,
he's just captured by
conservative media,
anyway.
right? So he's got to be.
Yeah, but he's a little bit different. Like he's a bit more. He's got this weird like conservative, like as in genuinely religiously conservative vibe.
You know, free market. I think that just do a bit of an exercise, right? Because if what people can't stand, right, and it is very effective because an incumbent kind of shows you their history and their record versus promises of an election cycle, right? So that's why it's so effective. And what makes it even worse is when you're being challenged on that, you go, oh, well, like not only wasn't my responsibility, even though I had the second top job in the office and I was 2IC and the last person in the room and a line joined at the hip, but actually it's actually Trump's fault. Just like you said, actually, everything bad in the world can be pushed.
Yeah, but
back
you just did the same thing. You just did the same thing. You said like, oh well, Gavin Newsom came and said about jobs. Oh well, actually, really, it was COVID. Like, so that's spin. Like
there was,
you know what I mean?
Like,
spin.
And I think that okay, here's the exercise.
Yeah, and
here's
so
the
it's all these lines, right?
So Trump comes in, and he comes in on a platform. And he sets up the conditions to overturn Roe v. Wade. Okay, this is something that obviously the Democrats want reversed or want changed. Biden, Harris come in promising to be the party that changes that. They can't change it, right? And now she's saying she'll change it. Tell me how she is going to change it.
She is going to put a bill before. I was going to say Parliament, but they don't have Parliament over there, Congress, and it will restore the effect of Roe v. Wade, and it will get voted down because the Republicans, they won't get enough votes.
Doesn't that further? No, but doesn't that further what I'm saying? Where it's like you're talking about something. Your history is that you haven't been able to do it, and you will not be able to do it. You have no road to doing it. So stop fucking talking about it.
But that's the debate. The debate is this fucking side of politics doesn't want this thing to happen.
Correct.
And there's not just a vote. There's not just a vote for president. There's also congressional elections too. And hey, you might not want to vote for that side of politics. Like, of course, like that. I think what you've outlined is a little bit silly, to be frank, because I think what you're basically saying is that there's no point having a point of difference in politics on an important matter that affects people, because it might not be possible. You might not get it across the line. Whereas actually the whole point is to draw out how you're different and why you're different.
She's not different.
So
She's
people
not different
can
from
make
Biden.
informed decisions about who they're going to... No, but they're different to the Republicans,
course,
and
man.
the Republicans are the
But
ones that are holding
she's-
it up.
She's saying, like, I will be the one. I'm the change candidate. I'm the transformational change candidate. When you've had time as your incumbent, that becomes a very hard sell.
No, that's the essence of her.
She's she's pitching herself as a transformational second coming of Obama, right? Like this is how it's.
No, I don't
is
think
how
that's
it's being
right.
pitched.
I don't think that's right at all. I think she's pitching herself as the continuity candidate, as the stable candidate, right? The biggest contrast between her and Trump is that she's not going to cause the next civil
Hope
war
is
in
coming
America.
back.
And
Hope is coming
who's
back.
coming back? Hope.
Sounds a lot like
Well,
Obama,
I think the
doesn't it?
opportunity economy is the closest to that, but I think
A new way forward.
I don't think that's the essence of her campaign. The essence of her campaign is 100% that she is not going to be chaotic like Donald Trump. Come on, man! Like I think you're too generous, man, to Trump and JD Vance.
Nah, JD Vance had a good day in the office. That's okay to say that.
Yeah, but like, I've said it. Like I said, he won the debate. But like, I think when it comes to like the nuts and bolts, like I expect a little bit more from you, man. I expect you to be like a little bit more kind of like it's one thing to say, hey, like optically, like, yes, like who won the day, who won more votes, right? You can say that, right? You can say, yep, look, JD Vance won more votes tonight, right? You can have that kind of conversation. But when you get like past that, and you're a bit of an apologist for the Republican side, man. Like, and not the Republican. I love the Republican Party, right?
Sandy.
I'm not against the Republican Party,
right? You get going
Trump
on the attack even on a good day
But you need truth. Like, it needs to be grounded by truth. Like, you need an all-star, man. Like, I don't I don't feel like you've got the right North Star here. I think you're like a little bit like, you're not like 180 degrees north. You're like 195 degrees north, and you think you're in the you think you're like true north, but like you're just like that 15 degrees off.
I think,
and I'm going to work on you. Like I'm going to get you to read some more books from insiders in the Trump administration to like really see what happened. And really, like, I don't want to do Sam Harris on you again, but like, so you're a little bit less confused about the severity of Donald Trump and what he will mean for us.
There's no threat to democracy in the way that they're talking about. Like I think it's all overblown. I think that people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that people are just like
he's just like upended the whole of the U.S. political system.
This shit will sweat itself out.
All of
man.
the conventions,
seriously.
All of the conventions have gone out the window. Like if you can't see that,
it's overblown, right? Like
your eyes aren't. You've got the blinkers on.
And actually, the president doesn't have as much power as you think.
It's not about that. It's about what the well, you know what? Like the president can have actually more power than you think if he does things like what the former U.S. president and now Republican candidate for president did on, in not conceding the election and riling up, and
even,
for example,
even that.
Nominating a vice president who has publicly declared that he wouldn't have ratified the election results, and what kind of constitutional crisis that would give rise to. Like this stuff actually is serious. Like it actually does matter. This isn't like just a storm in a teacup.
Even back on your own positions, man. You said that the whole transition of power wasn't even really big. It was the parties having a go at it and seeing what would stick, and that has happened on both sides. You said that last time we spoke about this, that you can even live with that.
What I was talking about was in the context of like the top things that concern me about Donald Trump. It's actually his actual policies, right? So the fact that that's not important, or that I don't think that's important, or I think that's just a little bit of like, above the line kind of skirmish that, this is what this is a bit like wrestling, kids wrestling on the bed or something. No, that's actually quite bloody serious, not having a smooth transfer of power. Like, but in terms of consequences, like, we kind of dodged a bullet. And if Donald Trump doesn't win this election, we might say to ourselves that, we did dodge that bullet. And, the lasting consequence, therefore, of the Trump administration was like all of his bad policies. However, if he's reelected, then maybe
there's only one person dodging a bullet in this election cycle. Set me up.
Well, we may very well come back to the conversation of would it the consequentialist in us in I think we've covered most of the things I wanted to talk about, but like there was a line, like, sorry, back to the border thing, like there was a line that you said, in what way did Tim Waltz win that? Like there was a good line, like he said, like, oh yeah, Trump said that he would like build the wall and like only 2% of it was built, and Mexico didn't even pay a damn dime of it. Like that was a good line. Like that pushed back against it. So I just had that written in my notes. I'm going through my list.
Be a bit more of a sting, I think, if Harris wasn't wanting to build the wall even more so now.
I don't know if she's building a wall. I don't think she had plans to build the wall.
She wants to kind of continue efforts to extend the wall.
I've missed that memo. I don't believe that. Anyway, but I'll plead ignorance because I've not stayed across that. But I'd be very surprised if that were the case. But the other thing I wanted to, just before we end, is maybe criticize the Waltz strategy team in the sense that like there was a lot of, I think, kind of reference back to Trump lines that he's made where they say, oh, he said this, right? Insert kind of crazy quote here. But I think what they need to realize is that I think now the way the public kind of interpret the crazy things that Trump says is not literally. Like people don't kind of treat the things that Trump says and judge the words literally by what their meaning actually is. They, I think, have moved past that and now kind of place Donald Trump's words in the realm of like trolling and rhetorical sort of silliness. So I think when they kind of say about Trump that, hey, he said this thing, as though that's some like really big moment. Like, I don't think that lands, because it's like kind of having a crack at a comedian because they've said some like sour taste joke. See, that person said that. They're really, they're racist or whatever, right? Whereas really they're making a joke, right? And yeah, I thought there was a bit of that tonight that I thought, none of this is really like convincing the middle Trump voter that they shouldn't continue.
I mean, what do you just to clarify? What do you think the brief was for Waltz? Like, who was he trying to reach?
Just don't make any headlines. I think just
don't fuck up.
Just neutralize this event. And to be fair, he probably achieved that. I think if you took out, like, I think where I felt Waltz was most vulnerable was that there was like that opening 5 minutes. I think if you took out the opening 5 minutes, I'd even go so far as to say that even if JD Vance was a bit more polished, that it probably was like a net neutral sort of impact. Like, they probably won't win or lose any votes out of the debate. But I just think that first 5 minutes, he just stuttered a little bit. He seemed most nervous in the first 5 minutes. He also, I don't know if you noticed, but like there was this whole game being played in the beginning, right? So, and credit to whoever was advising JD Vance, or if it was his own idea, I don't know. But I think the two things he did that were actually really quite, intelligent from a tactics point of view, they came out, then he walked off the stage to do something else, and just left Tim Waltz standing there like an idiot, like on his own. And he just looked really awkward, and that sort of threw him, I think, a little bit. And then the other thing was just the opening. Like, Tim Waltz was the first to speak, and he gave his like opening comments about whatever. He just launched in to answer the question, and then almost deliberately, and I'm absolutely 100% sure it was very calculated, JD Vance to like really contrast. He almost did the equivalent of like we've spoken before about.
I was thinking the same thing.
Country.
Yeah.
Like,
you missed a part. Here,
like, and
now I'm going to point it out by doing it.
I just, yeah. I want to firstly thank you, America, for watching today, and pleasure. It's my absolute honor to be here. And a little bit about me. I'm this, and Tim Waltz just went straight in, and it just, the contrast.
The worst part of that
quite,
was that then Tim Waltz tried to do that, but like literally maybe like 20 minutes in, he was like, oh, and let me tell you just a little bit about myself. He's like, fuck, I'll just put it in here in this question 20 minutes in, and it's it didn't work so well.
Yeah.
But look, that's what I mean. Like, obviously, if this was a job interview, we all know who we're going to hire, right? Like, I think that is clear. In terms of the competence.
Depends on what the job is, right? Though, like, if the job is vice president, I know who I'm going to hire, and it's not JD Vance. If the job is
anything else, literally anything else.
If the job is a I don't know, a car salesman, then I'll give it to JD.
Andy, this is what I'm talking about. Let
a special brand
the dog have his day, man. Like, seriously, like he's like given. I'm giving him his day. I'm just sort of saying that, like, there's a difference between being eloquent and well spoken and confident, but sometimes like people who are all of those things aren't necessarily like that doesn't mean that they're like they make great computer scientists or engineers or whatever. Like, there's different kind of. I'm giving him his day. Like, as a debate, he won the debate. Like, we both agree with that. There's no debate there. But like, I don't want the fact that he won the debate to bleed into some sort of confusion about that. Like, see, it was all just a media conspiracy. See, Trump is actually great, and I'm very sensitive to that. And keep Trump out of it.
Yeah,
just like Tim Waltz's first answer. Just keep Trump out of it.
Yeah,
man.
but it's the Trump agenda. It's the Trump agenda. Like, he is very much like there for Donald Trump, and he's
there
only
for himself
at the invitation of Donald Trump, and that's kind of more dangerous actually, because he's beholden to Donald Trump. What are you thinking, do you think it's all over Red Rover for Kamala Harris, or do you think we'll forget about it in about 24 hours time?
I still don't. I mean, look, I still don't think that the debate, especially the VP debate, is going to really move the needle or have a huge impact. I think it's just feeding the political commentary. It's done wonders for personal brand for JD Vance, and I think that's pretty much the extent of what I'm willing to say is the impact for this. So I think that what we might be seeing in some of those odds is probably more to do with what's going on in the Middle East right now than anything else. So yeah, I don't think it's going to engage or hit that hard. But you never know. I just think that most people won't tune into this, and even if they do, they're not going to stay for long.
All right. Well, did you listen to the latest JoJo Siwa album?
Sorry?
It's really shit. Mother of gay pop.
I missed it. What did you say? Listen to what album?